Is it running yet?
It's going. It's going.
So Adam Hicks, you could type, I am Corporal Hicks. He's in Maui.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Permaculture Smackdown episode something in the 30s. Hey, we were just talking about, oh, by the way, it's Josiah Wallingford and
Paul Wheaton.
Yeah, so we're live on YouTube this time. Normally we're live on Facebook. So if you're not familiar with either of us, I run Perma Ethos and Paul runs
Permies.com.
Yeah. And we get together once a week and we just chit chat about whatever the hell's going on. And I got it.
There's Davin.
Hi, Davin's here too. We also got a special guest. All right, cool. I don't know if Davin, I just permanently added you as a show this guy's face and you just come to listen, or if you're actually coming to talk about stuff. But either way, I'm happy to have you.
Well, thank you.
All right, so it's we do the show once a week. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play if you want to just listen to us in the background or whatever. If you're a student of Permethos or a Patreon of Paul Wheaton's, you get the option to join our special live chat thing where you can talk with all of us, and we talk with the live audience as we go. So earlier we were just talking with Mark, who says he's in California, and we were asking about burning. And that brought up my question of, Paul, how do you think what bodies would do in California during this fire? Like, if a fire was on my property, what do you think it'd do?
They would be effectively fireproof, even though they're made out of wood. I mean, it's part of the beauty of this design, and the genius of it is not my genius. It's the work of Mike Ayler. And so basically the Wafati design is going to have a thick earthen roof. And so then when your burning embers land on it, no problem. If burning anything lands on it, no big deal. It's possible to set the building on fire intentionally, but from a forest fire. Plus the other thing is that around the structure is going to be fairly clear, just because of the way of the earthworks that you did when you put the structure in. It could be plausible that somebody could try to plant something, but it's like near the structure is the umbrella, and since the structure, the umbrella is going to be underground just a couple of feet, it's difficult for trees to get established there and get very big.
Yeah, so you can see here, it's clearly all wood. If you guys haven't seen a Wafati before, if anybody's new to it, check out go to richsoil.com/Wofati, WOFATI.JSP, and you can check them out. And you have 2 on your property at this time, correct, Paul?
That is correct. One of them is currently about 97% complete, and there's a work being done there right now today as we speak, where they're putting in a brand new rocket cook stove.
Yeah, and that brings us to the Jamboree, which is happening right now. That's all part of the Jamboree, right?
That's right. And you popped in for a little bit for the Rocket Mass Heater Jamboree. And got to meet all the peeps and see all the cool things being made.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool to meet the innovators. That was a blast, and made some great connections there.
Those guys are superstars.
So when I was leaving, Peter Vandenberg was about to install a RMH, a rocket mass heater, into Allerton Abbey.
Right, and so that's what we were just talking about. Allerton Abbey is a Wafati, and then I went up and checked on him yesterday, and he's going to do this. He's got a new style of rocket mass heater, which could use a lot more testing, but he calls it the double shoebox. So it doesn't have a a vertical riser, which is, so commonly used. Instead, it's got a lower batch box chamber and an upper chamber, and there's a special slit between the two where the gases move up and they do the ramshorn swirl to get the complete combustion that is required. Looks very fascinating, needs testing. He did the demonstration that he did had a lot of glass, so you could really see where the fire was going. It was really very cool.
Yeah, the guy tests like crazy. He's testing numbers like crazy, and he was extremely excited about this new double shoebox system.
Yeah. The other, you mentioned that there were two Wafadis up at Wheaton Labs, and so Allerton Abbey is the original. We used to call it Wafadi 0.7, and then we've got the newer one, which is Cooper Cabin, Wafadi 0.8. And while Allerton Abbey is about 97% complete, and it should be 100% complete sometime in the next few weeks, Cooper Cabin is only 40% complete.
Okay. So while we were there, Dan came and visited and shot some video.
That's right, and his video went up just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, so I kind of want to watch that, if you're cool with that.
Okay, can I pause you at certain points? Because I've got comments to make as the video goes by.
Sure. You too, Davin. Feel free.
Well, I wanted to add in really fast. I think an Ayler structure, if it did get some embers inside of it, would breathe a little bit better and have a problem of burning. And I think that Paul's structure is more simplified. Depending. It's, because the Ayler structure,
you got Paul blushing.
I don't know if we should get into this right now, but Mike Ayler, he coveted the pattern language, and he was saying that for human aesthetics and psyche, 2 windows are needed in every room where a human is going to reside.
Well, more accurately, you need to have light coming from at least 2 directions. Okay. And so before he died, Mike came out here, and before I even built the first Wafadi, I have many hours racked up in long arguments with Mike about the path I was traveling. And it comes from years of friendship. But when he came out here, then he was really pissed off that I didn't have light coming from 2 directions in Cooper Cabin, whereas he made a big deal out of how there's light coming from 2 directions in Allerton Abbey. And he feels this is critically important. It was not an element, I believe, in his first structure, but it is something he adopted in all of his latter structures. Now, I told him these are experimental structures that we have right now, and these are not designed to be, to have all the frills of a 1.0 structure. This is 0.7 and 0.8.
I thought that was a good thing to mention.
Okay.
So, Davin, since you're talking and on the show, you should probably introduce yourself. So, could you please?
Hi, my name is Davin Hoyt. I've been a follower of Paul's for 5 years, I feel, and the podcast got me involved. I was doing my own thing in Georgetown, Texas, and I am a practicing architect in Georgetown, Texas.
Yeah, and it's davinhoyt.com. He does consulting.
Yeah. Yep. And I got my PDC at Wheaton Labs. And I've got a few things listed about Paul on my list of my things here, my projects, and then down at the bottom are or possibly mixed in there are wishful projects.
Awesome.
Like I would love to do a laundry to landscape entrepreneurial type business here in my hometown. I have magazine idea where I'd like to exploit the farmers who are welcoming CSA subscriptions here in my area. Just little things to bump up the fresh food programs here in Central Texas.
All right, cool. Yeah, I like the word exploit. That's good. That's good. As soon as I heard it, I was like, we're exploiting farmers. All right, what's going on?
Well, I say that for lack of better term because you put me on the spot. But
Damn it!
What I realize is that, you know, like farmers, a lot of them who are doing it down here, they want to sort of maintain their farm and their family, and they don't have time to go around and advertise, while like new age people or techies might be interested in exploiting them for entrepreneurial goods.
I think it's fine to exploit them as long as it's mutual. All right.
Let's go on. Let's look at the video.
Let's go to the video.
I'm wearing my winter coat, and there's a...
Oh, you know what? I got to make sure I am sharing this properly. Otherwise, nobody's going to be able to hear it. Bam.
I heard it.
Or see it, right? There we go.
I saw it.
Google culture bound behind me. This can only mean one thing. Wheaton Labs. Paul Wheaton is hosting the Rocket Mass Heater Jamboree here in Missoula, Montana, and he invited me to come over and see what was going on, do a little video of the innovation going on with Rocket Mass Heaters. Right now, Paul is hosting 6 of the most leading innovators of Rocket Mass Heaters in the country, and I get to see the cool things they're coming up with.
The Love Shack.
We are at the Love Shack. It's a very small cabin, a tiny house actually, and heating in here is being done by the Minnie Mouse. Minnie Mouse is just one oil barrel with a grease drum attached to it. Inside here there's a small J-tube, just a 4x4 inch J-tube. The riser ends up here, goes down. The pipe, the chimney pipe here, is inside the barrel and goes down to the bottom. About 6 inches from the bottom it ends. So heat goes up, down the barrel, and to the pipe.
This is the Minnie Mouse.
This is the Minnie Mouse. It's for tiny houses.
What's the square footage in this?
I think it is 6 feet by 11 feet. So this is 66 square feet. This is a portable cabin on skids.
All right, so the two of you have both stayed in the Love Shack of course, at different times.
Yes.
So now I think I'm speculating while I'm standing in there that it's about 6 feet by 11 feet on the inside. I think that's about right. You guys, am I close? Am I off?
I was thinking 8 by 11. I think it's about 8 feet wide. Maybe it's 6.
So now
I think you're about right because I couldn't do push-ups in that direction. I had to be this way.
Oh, okay.
But I stayed in it for a month.
I stayed in it during the winter.
Before there was heat.
Before there was heat, yes.
So now I think I could palm each of the walls, and I think my wingspan is same as my height, 6'6".
Okay.
So I think it's less than 6'6" wide. I'm pretty sure, and I'm guessing it's 11 feet lengthwise. I mean, if nothing else, you kind of see the bunk beds there, and bunk beds are about, they're probably about 6'6". I think that if I were to sit on a full-size mattress, in fact, I sleep on a full-size mattress every night, and my feet hang over the end. So it's like, and it's a little bit more than that. So maybe, I'm thinking 11 feet by 6.
How tall are you, Paul?
I'm 6'6".
You are 6'6".
Yeah. So I am freaky big.
So my question with this Rocket Mass heater is, normally when I see a Rocket Mass heater, I see a chimney next to the barrel, not inside of it. And the point of that is to get heat into the top or as much as high up onto the chimney as possible, right? So that it creates the updraft.
So this is a fascinating design. So this particular structure was built in a single day, and it's on skids, so we can move it around wherever we want. In fact, we've already moved it several times. And as it was being built, it was during our first rocket mass heater workshop ever on the property. And so then we had a pocket rocket in there, which is kind of like, it kind of looks a little bit like this, and it was glowing red at the bottom. Now, since then, we've banned all pocket rockets because they just burn the metal out of the inside. But this is an amazing thing that Peter has created here. First of all, I want to get rid of that silvery tape. We're going to replace that with silicone tape, which has no adhesives in it. But for now, the important thing is like this barrel has a whole bunch of bricks inside of it. So then the bricks do a couple of things. One is you kind of end up with a bit of a pocket rocket as the way it functions. But at the same time, the pocket rockets never burned clean like rocket mass heaters do. So then this has a riser inside of it, so it does burn clean. And then on top of that, the exhaust, unlike a pocket rocket, with a pocket rocket, the exhaust sits right at the top of the barrel. And the exhaust goes down deep, so it has a stratification chamber inside of it. So then we're exhausting the cooler gases, not the warmer gases. Then the next cool thing is that you'll notice that there's no heat shield behind it. And that's because the bricks have been tightly arranged inside the barrel. They spent a whole bunch of time with a tile saw, and they cut the bricks to fit perfectly inside of there. And so it's got an internal heat shield that also acts as a mass. So when it was down in the red cabin, because that's where it was first installed, the red cabin is so poorly insulated, I think it's fair to say it's not insulated. You would heat the structure up very fast, but then you'd wake up in the morning and it'd be really cold. So the Love Shack is not greatly insulated, but it's pretty well insulated. I mean, if nothing else, the door on the front of the Love Shack is utterly uninsulated, and there's a gap under it.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, I think, it's for practical purposes, you can still say it's an uninsulated structure, but it's also smaller than the red cabin. And so the reports so far have been that people will do a fire at like 7 in the evening, and then in the morning when they wake up, it's still plenty warm in there.
And so does the brick go around the chimney? Does it completely surround the chimney, or is it the backside of the chimney not bricked around it?
Okay, so the chimney in this that you see, it actually operates very cool. It's like maybe 120 to 140 degrees. Most of the heat is being kept inside of the barrel, or it's being given off by the barrel. But the bricks are stacked inside the barrel facing the wooden walls. So as you're facing the barrel, there's no bricks there. So you're getting the heat pushed out towards you.
You get the direct quick heat.
So it's trying to bleed off the heat. And then if the camera pans down, you'll see the wood feed. And this is a 4-inch system. It'll only hold just a tiny amount of sticks, just hardly any sticks. And they have to be very small sticks. So it's a teeny tiny speck of a fire, which is great for 66 square feet.
Yeah. And so the mass, how much mass is it heating? Am I going to be warm in the morning? Do we know what kind of temperatures we're getting out of it?
From what I've heard, it's like you go to bed and at 70, you wake up at like 55.
Okay.
And that's like touching onto frost outside. And that door, which this thing is right in front of the door, that door is not insulated at all. It's just made out of planks.
Right. All right, cool. Shall we continue?
Yes.
We've already moved this cabin 3 times to wherever we like. and this will move right along with it.
Perfect. Now we're going to meet with one of the innovators, Donkey, who has...
With that, how is this thing mounted to the floor? If you're moving this thing, because the whole structure's on skids, if you're moving this, you're not worried about the stove rocking?
Well, the bricks inside of it are shaped in such a way that they're not going to move.
Okay.
So they're just dry stacked in there. There's nothing in there holding them together, except for the fact that they're shaped. It's kind of like an arch. They're like, but they're going like this, and they're kind of shaped kind of I don't know. They got a little bit of slope onto the ends like that, so they can't slide out of where they are.
Okay. And but it's got to be heavy. It's really heavy, right?
It's going to be pretty heavy, but I mean the other thing is the whole structure is pretty heavy. In fact, where it is right now, we had a 55 horsepower tractor that was dragging it up. There's a road behind that we don't use anymore because it's too steep. But before we even got to that road, the 4-wheel drive 55 horsepower tractor couldn't move the Love Shack any farther. It's so heavy as it was dragging it. Mm-hmm. And so we just left it there. That's how it got to be where it is now.
So because it's so heavy when you're moving, it's not rocking a whole lot anyway.
It's going to be rocking a fair bit, but not that much. And it's like, the other thing is that if it's like we get to the destination and it's like, oh man, look, it's all jostled and weird now. Well, we just put it back, right?
Right. All right. I bet Dan's going to be super excited. I paused for so long on that face.
As a new style rocket mass heater he has in this place right here. It's pretty cool. Check this out.
I don't know if you talk about it, but this lid was like some big freaking deal. I don't know why, but what's up with this lid?
This lid is a big freaking deal. And so here's the thing is that up until this lid, when you would make, because this is a batch box style. So most of our rocket mass heaters are J-tube style. J-tube is awesome. It's quick to build. It's easy to build. It works great. It's been so thoroughly tested and found to be fucking magnificent. And so J-tube is the way to fly. And now, like a few years ago, Peter came to the Innovators event and he introduced us all to batch box. And so now batch box is going to be the future, but it's got some bumps for now to get there. So the cool thing is, like when you do a J-tube style fire, it'll only hold so much. But the cool thing is that for a door, you just kind of slide the bricks around. And plus, J-tube kind of forces people when they approach it and they're like, I'm going to light a fire. It's like, whoa, what the fuck is that? And so it's such a different way that it basically screams out like, okay, this is different. You know, it's not going to be like anything you've used before. So you take a moment and learn how to light this thing. As opposed to the problems we've already had with batch box. Batch box, people approach a batch box and they're like, oh, I've lit this kind of thing before. It'll be easy. And they cause a disaster. It's different. It's a rocket mass heater. It's not a conventional wood stove. But, okay, the upside of batch box is like with my rocket mass heater in my house, if it's gotten cold enough, I might start a fire and I'll keep the fire going a couple of hours. So I might need to reload it. Like I'll start the fire and I'll reload it 4 or 5 times. And then I'll forget about it. And, it'll be fine. And the house will be warm for a couple of days. But with a batch box system, I'll be able to kind of judge like, okay, how cold is it? How much wood do I want to put in? And then I'll put in the total load and then I'll light it and then walk away and I won't have to reload it anymore. It burned all the wood I'll need for the day in one go.
Right.
So it's like, wow, that's convenient. That's kind of nice. And the problem is that in order for a batch box to work correctly, well, first there's the problem of building it. There's been a bunch of people that have built batch box rocket mass heaters in the last few years because they've heard how great they are, but they don't put on a proper door. And without a proper door, it's a useless piece of shit. It's like, and I've seen people cobble together just stupid shit. And it's like, well, this will be fine for now for a door. And it's just loaded with problems. So then with masonry and a proper door, what people had to do, people are like, oh, I'll put a couple of pins buried into the masonry to hold up the door. Those come out in a few weeks. It's like, you use the door, you swing it in and out, and then it comes off. And so one of the things that was innovated this year is a guillotine style door. And Fred and Erica were working on that. And I think that they've got like 6 days into that door, into building that door. And a lot of rocket mass heaters can be built in 2 days. Yeah. And so then it's kind of like, and then what you would do is you'd build a rocket mass heater in 2 days, and then you got to spend like 3 to 6 days building a proper door for it. And usually the door needs metal to wrap all the way around. So it's kind of like all the rest of the rocket mass heater could be built in 2 days and requires a DIY level of 2 or 3. But the door would take this incredibly huge amount of time, and it would require welding skills, pretty good welding skills. So it requires a DIY level of 7. And it's kind of like, so all of these people are trying to use batch box rocket mass heaters without a proper door. And it's, I believe, and I've been told I'm stupid about this, I believe it's ruining the reputation of rocket mass heaters, because people will make this batch box style rocket mass heater without a door, and then people will go and try and use it, and they'll be like, this sucks, this is shit, this is terrible. And so then they don't like it, they don't want anything to do with it. And so whereas the J tubes have been awesome always. You want to make a door, you grab 2 bricks and you're done. You have a door. It's 2 bricks. That took all of 30 seconds to make the door for your J tube system. All right, so then here's the thing. They made this slightly sloped cob opening, and they stuck a casserole dish on it, a casserole dish lid on it. And so this is a combination of Mud and Donkey who came up with this. And they call it the casserole door. And basically it's like, to make that stuff that the lid sits in takes like half an hour.
And Donkey's a person, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's not made with a donkey.
Yeah, Kirk Mobert is Donkey and Chris McClellan is Mud.
And so because of this angle, why is there the angle other than making sure that the door sits there well? Is there another reason for the angle?
Well, you're going to feed it horizontally. This is how the batch box works. So this is a batch box system. And then basically this may very well turn out to be the greatest innovation from this year's event. So, we bring these people together. The primary function is that in the middle of the event is what we call the innovators event. And so then the innovators are going to innovate for 5 days. And while they did do a lot of amazing stuff, and we'll talk more about this in a moment, this may very well be the biggest thing, because batch style rocket mass heaters are probably going to be the future of rocket mass heaters. But the door was like, all the doors were such shit unless you just, did this massive, elaborate stuff. Like when you look at the one that's inside the classroom, that is a lot of welding to make that door. Yeah. And it's a nice door. And then the amount of time that went into what was going to go here it's like making a very elaborate door too, but a different style that we thought would be easier and simpler. But this is like simpler by far. And suddenly the batch box system, I mean, one of the biggest problems, if I'm going to say the biggest problem there was with batch box systems has now been solved. This is huge. And you get a lovely view of the fire.
Now, one of the issues was the handle. It gets so damn hot. My suggestion was to get like some heat tape and just put tape around the knob, but that's got adhesive. So what are you thinking?
Well, you can see the hot pad right there. That's the short-term solution. And then along the lines of your idea, you can get that silicone tape, which has no adhesive, which would stick to it just fine. But then the tape itself might get hot. And then it's like, so you haven't really solved the problem. So there's been a lot of ideas thrown around about what to do about this, but it's nice to be able to see the fire. The air intake is just below the lid on the inside, so it's kind of bringing cooler air in so that the lid doesn't get too hot and break. But we're already talking about like what's going to be the lifespan of that lid.
Right.
And we probably better find 3 more just like it, because it's probably going to break one way or another.
I don't know if it'd break from heat. I mean, the things get really hot in there, but those are made to take quite a bit of heat.
They do. It's true. It's the right kind of glass. We're speculating that it's borosilicate glass. And so it'll probably last quite a long while. But, somebody might drop it. There's all kinds of things. Plus, we should probably get a bunch of hot pads.
Now, I'm noticing these gaps, these spacers underneath. What's going on there?
Well, you've got an oven. You're trying to get temperatures. In this case, I bet you this is a 4-inch system. So it's a fairly small rocket mass heater. It is a batch box, so the fire is going to burn a little bit hotter. But we are talking about temperatures that are probably going to be pushing 2,000 degrees or better. And so, you want to, and it's on a wood floor. And so, we want to cool it a bit. And in fact, if you watch that wood floor there carefully, you'll be able to see through the planks in the floor to see the ground underneath, thus demonstrating that this is such a poorly insulated structure that it counts as a non-insulated structure. So the floor is not insulated at all. And
very dry ground underneath, which was a concern. Now, I'd spoken with Donkey about this, and Donkey was suggesting, or someone had suggested, I think it was Donkey, putting like a mat, a fireproof mat, and cutting slits into it that would slide in under these, in between these bricks, so that when you open the door, you're messing around with ash, it's not falling out and directly into those cracks.
So I don't understand. If you had ash falling in those cracks, why would that be a problem?
Well, if an ember gets down in there and you have dry grass underneath your wood flooring.
Well, if you look between the wood planks, what you see underneath is just gravel and dirt. There's no grass under there.
Right.
But yeah, if you've got an ember landing on wood, that's not okay. But just ash though, that I wouldn't be worried about that. But I would say that the big thing is that I think we need to get a rug in there of some sort anyway, just because if you drop that lid, I'm mostly worried about that. I mean, the thing about rocket mass heaters is that they burn so hot and so fast with so little wood. It's rare that we have any kind of ember problem.
Yeah.
But sure, yeah, there's still embers. There's still going to be those kinds of things.
That and the fire's like sucking in towards the back.
Right.
Not blowing out.
Rocket mass heaters have strong airflow. And this one's pretty fascinating, but maybe we should continue on the video because Kirk is going to talk at great length about it. I do want to say real quick that when we were videoing this, Kirk kept saying rocket stove. and he would refer to rocket mass heaters as a rocket stove. And then we kept saying, like, no, let's not use the word rocket stove because people think that's a camp stove. And then they freak out when you say rocket stove. They're like, oh, you shouldn't run a camp stove in your house. And it's like, this is a rocket mass heater, which is vented to the outdoors. So go ahead.
Okay.
So Donkey, this rocket mass heater is a little bit different than the ones that we're used to seeing, the standard rocket mass heater, where we have the 55-gallon drum and then the wood feed.
Yeah, the little horizontal wood feed and all that stuff. And why is this different and why does that matter?
I know that for my wife, in our house, something like that would not have the aesthetic appeal that might be consistent with her taste. But when I look at a rocket mass heater like this, I see that this is one. It's more. There's a smaller footprint, so it's more concise in space. But also, there's not a big metal drum in your face. It's a little bit more appealing visually. There's a little more aesthetic value here. So, I think that something like this would be much easier to bring to the opposing spouse and say, well, look at this one. This might work.
Well, first let me address the metal barrel thing. The metal barrel is sort of a legacy of the fact that we were building these things 20 years ago out of trash and mud, right? It's a trash and mud thing. It means that anybody can afford the parts to do it, right? But if you want something a little better, it doesn't have to be a metal barrel. It could be any metal surface, anything. You could have a gorgeous dragon sculpture that's made with like a place where steam comes out of its nose, or you can make anything you want for that. It doesn't have to be a metal barrel. The barrel is a free thing in most places. It's considered to be a part of the waste stream in most places. So that's why we did the metal barrels from the beginning, is that these are a peasant technology, right? If you can afford to buy all that fancy stuff, you don't need one of these. Unless you want to actually burn wood cleanly, right? But you can afford to throw wood in a dirty box all day long if you want your aesthetics. So that's where the barrel came from. But the barrel is not actually necessary either. That could be a masonry barrel, right? So what we've done in this thing, because of the stratification chamber here, it can be made out of brick and stuff. And oh, by the way, I'm not a mason, so don't pay too close attention to my masonry joints, because this is actually kind of a mockery of good masonry, honestly. This is going to be all plastered up with an earthen plaster. So all the masonry is going to disappear behind earthen plaster here, which is going to be really attractive of its own accord. You could leave the bricks in. We could make a window to say, hey, there's bricks in here, like a truth window. We could do all kinds of things to this thing. All right, so let me go back and I can address what's great about this versus, say, a regular rocket stove, the J-tube rocket stove. There's a lot of stuff, like I'll get clients who say, I really want a rocket stove because they're so efficient and I've heard all these great things. And the first thing that I do is I try to talk people out of getting a rocket stove, because I don't ever want someone to come back and say, this stove isn't for me. So what I do is, I say, are you the kind of person who just wants to throw a log at the fire and walk away? Or do you like fiddling with fire? And if they say, oh, I just want to throw a log at it and walk away, maybe a rocket mass heater isn't for you. I'm talking about, I have a rocket stove. If I can't do that, then I'll go build one happily. A rocket mass heater. If I can't do that, and like I said, the reason why is because traditional rocket mass heaters, the J-tube, tend to be a little fiddly. You got to sit with it and you got to fool with the wood. A lot of us really like that. I'm a pyro. I wouldn't want it any other way, right? I like fiddling with fire. If you like that, then do it.
I don't know why Donkey is saying this, and I gotta fully, completely disagree. And I mean, I know that he's excited about Batchbox, and so many people are excited about Batchbox that they're willing to throw J-tube to the wind. But I just want to say, I take all my systems here like in the house and in the library, are J-tube styles. Now, of course, we've got a batch box down in the classroom, and now we've got this batch box that Donkey just built. Yeah, stop jamming on the J-tube, says Julia. So the thing is, I'll fire up a J-tube and I walk away from it. I don't stand around. Now, I think that the thing that maybe what he's trying to say is that it's like you can put 5 or 6 loads into a batch box all at once and then walk away. And then with a J-tube style, then you load it up and burn it, and then you're going to come back to it like maybe a half hour later, 45 minutes later, and add more wood, and then repeat until you're warm enough, which is still, you know, fucking with it far less than a conventional wood stove. You know, but yeah, it's like, okay, you might spend some time with it. On the other hand, a lot of times, if you just burn one batch, like in a J-tube style system, that'll be enough. You had a little bit of a fire, you warmed it up a bit, now you're good. Get on with your day. But yeah, most of the time, you know, I add something to it, you know, every 30 to 45 minutes.
Which is about what I'm doing with my conventional wood stove. It's like every 30, 45 minutes, I'm throwing another log in or checking it out.
So, but then unlike your conventional wood stove, when I get to the point that I've done, you know, 4 or 5 loads, it's plenty warm, and then I stop feeding it. And whereas you have to probably keep feeding it. And
I'm using a lot more wood. I'm
yeah.
Stacking it where you're just using sticks.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm using just and your position probably is like, if it's not that cold outside, you're gonna put less wood in when you load it. You're gonna put 3 or 4, you know, sticks in, as opposed to loading it up tight. And then when you come back and it's cold, you're gonna put a few more sticks on, but not a big fire. But if it's really cold outside, you're gonna have a big hot fire all day long. Whereas I'm going to have the exact same size of fire every burn, then I'm going to like let it go out. And then if it's like so-so outside, it might be 3 days till I build another fire because it stays warm in the house for 3 days. Or if it's really cold outside, I might build another fire like that the next day.
One thing I do like about the conventional wood stoves is like if my boots are wet or something like that, I'm just putting them right next to the wood stove, and they're going to be dry fairly quickly because it's not storing all this heat in mass. It's blowing it out right onto whatever I'm wanting to heat up.
Well, on a rocket mass heater, I can go and I can put those boots on the mass.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different thing. All I'm saying is that I don't understand what he's saying about like, oh, you should only do a J-tube if you want to get fiddly with the fire. And my position is that I think that J-tube, I'm not sitting around being fiddly with the fire.
Well, I am, just because it's so much more fun to light a fire in a J-tube than it is a conventional stove.
I would say that the first dozen times or so that you do a rocket mass heater, you're right there because it's just, you're baffled at how that is way too small of a fire for the amount of heat that's being blasted at me right now from this barrel.
And the sound. I love the sound. That.
Yeah. So, but after a while, it's like, okay, I got to get back to my work and I got to, you know, it'll be fine. I've sat with this rocket mass heater so many times, I know it's safe.
I feel like a J-tube, I would be more comfortable with a J-tube, safety-wise. Like not worrying about it, just throwing sticks in, not having it. Because everything, I don't have to worry about anything coming out the lid or coming out the door. It just feels like a safer device.
Yeah, I mean, all the fire is kind of way down in there. Mm-hmm. And it's so surrounded by a bunch of insulated stuff. And then the fire is like, there's all these sticks between you and the fire. It's just kind of like, you know, the odds of anything going wrong are a lot less. But you know, it's still possible. The important thing is the part where you're getting heat and there is no fire at this time. Well, that's much, much, much safer than any, you know, conventional stove.
Yeah, and a big problem with that at least renters have, and a lot of house owners have with a conventional stove is insurance. Insurance is ridiculous, and sometimes you can't even insure, like if you're renting in some areas, you can't insure it if you're using conventional wood heat or wood stove. I would think that once these things take off and become more popular, that these are safer and insurance companies are going to be a lot more happy about them. Other than what I think that they don't like is that it's home built. So I don't know how you get around that issue. Because with a conventional wood stove, you're buying it from a store and just installing it. You're not having to build it.
So as far as building codes go, building codes are warming up fast to rocket mass heaters, and I didn't even intend to make that little pun there. But as well as our insurance companies. And it's like these things are safer than propane or natural gas. And some might argue that they're safer than electric. And in fact, this is something I don't think I've ever shared before, but when I was 7 years old, I was living somewhere and they put a bunch of stuff onto a baseboard heater. And so the home I was living in caught on fire from stuff being on the baseboard heater. And so my home burned down on the day before Thanksgiving. And so it's like, you know, so people are like, oh, electric heat's so safe. And it's like, you know, not as safe as you might think. But my impression is that rocket mass heaters are coming up fast and strong in the world of building codes as well as insurance.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do now for everybody watching is in the comments, I put the link to this video that we're watching. Won't let me do it there, but I'll do it.
And so that is a Pyrex lid, yes?
I don't think I'm going to say, I mean, Pyrex is a brand. And so is it a Pyrex brand? I didn't see the word Pyrex on it. But I mean, it is obviously a casserole lid, right? So it's designed to go into an oven. Or it could be something that's like the lid to a crock pot. So it's designed for heat.
One thing I saw the innovators doing was taking the old electric stove tops and using the glass from those for different kind of builds. That was pretty cool.
And that's going in up at Allerton Abbey, I believe. That was Peter. And
cool.
So Peter's taking that up to Allerton Abbey. All right, you ready to get back to the video?
Well, first I want to say on this, the Batchbox system, so the one in your shop has a glass top.
Yeah.
And at some point, someone had left water, cold water, or somehow it spilled on top of this glass while the fire was going. And for sure, I thought the glass was going to crack, but it didn't.
Yeah, that's a different kind of glass. So there's soda glass, which it's kind of funny because, you know, Pyrex was mentioned, but the Pyrex company switched from borosilicate glass to soda glass about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And so now you take their pans, like oven dishes, you know, those ones that are like, you know, well, I'm trying to like, you know, they're like this big, right? And they're like, and you make a cake in it, a big cake in that glass dish, and you bake it in the oven. And we've lost 4 of those that are Pyrex brand soda glass. And then the old Pyrex was borosilicate. And then, so now it's like this thing where don't buy Pyrex anymore. Pyrex has turned to shit. And the soda glass just doesn't last if you're using it in an oven, even though it's like, oh, it's great for your oven.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, not soda glass, but borosilicate glass is. Now, the stuff that is being used for fireplaces tolerates an even higher temperature. So your oven, you're probably not going to bake anything in your oven at anything higher than like 500 degrees. But your wood stove is going to be pushing 900 degrees and more. And so that requires a better glass. And so I'm not sure what kind of glass, like what's in the stuff that's used in wood stoves. But this is a wood stove glass. This is an extremely high temp glass.
My next question, and I think this would probably be best with the J-tube style, but a lot of people like pellet stoves, and I think insurance companies more like pellet stoves than traditional wood heat stoves. Is this kind of could you make a rocket mass pellet system, and has that been tried?
People have done that, but I want to discourage people from trying to do the pellet stuff. One
of the really nice things about it is that you can go pick up trash sticks and just throw them in there instead of having to buy pellets of wood.
And, there's been a lot of places where, like a local company has a lot of wood waste, and so then they were making pellets. But then times changed, and they, shut down their plant for a couple of years. And then here you've gone and put all this money into pellet stove, and suddenly you find you're paying 20 times more for these fucking pellets. And it's like, man, why didn't I stay with what I had?
Yeah.
So it's like, pellets are cheap when they're cheap, and then there's the times when they're not, and then you're like, fuck, what have I got myself into? The great thing about a rocket mass heater is that you're heating your home with 1/10 the wood, and so now you're to a point where you can heat your home with the twigs that naturally fall off your trees in your yard. I mean, I heated this home in a very cold winter, a particularly cold winter in Montana, with 0.60 cords of wood. That's not very much. I mean, that's going to be like, so a cord, if half a cord, so it's close to half a cord. So that would be a pile of sticks, 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet. That's not very much. I think that's like, you probably can have a container that size, and you heap it with your sticks from your yard in the summertime or in the spring, and coming up with that's going to be easy. And then it's like that's your fuel for next winter. It's like easy.
Which brings me to my next question: is wet wood easier to manage in a J-tube or a batch box? It seems to me like a J-tube would be, because it's kind of drying the wood.
All right. First of all, here's an awesome thing. Now, you've been in my library, right? You've seen the rocket mass heater in the library.
Yeah.
Did you see where we put the wood?
Up top, above the mass.
Above the mass. So let's say you've got a whole bunch of wet wood, and you stack it on the mass. I would imagine that after about 3 fires, that wood isn't wet anymore. I mean, like all through. Like, let's say you put green wood on, and you cut it down to wrist size or smaller, which is the size I prefer for rocket mass heater. Ernie likes much larger stuff. But, I mean, I think that after 3 or 4 burns, it's dry all the way through. After 1 burn, the outside is dry. So if it was like dry wood, but it got rained on, stack it on the mass, and after 1 burn, it'll be dry. And so, okay. But with a conventional wood stove, it's like, it is a stupid fucking idea to use green wood or wet wood. Yeah. That's how you get chimney fires. And it just burns so cold that creosote builds up on everything. Oh, and it's so smoky, and your whole system runs so inefficiently. And it's kind of like, I think you do better with a rocket mass heater running that stuff, because it's trying to get it hotter. It's an insulated space. It will dry the wood better, because when you burn wood in a conventional wood stove, it's going to not get as hot. You're gonna especially with wet wood, you're not going to get a very hot fire at all. But with a rocket mass heater of any kind, the first space is insulated, so you get a much hotter fire. And with more heat, you're going to dry things out better. And the system is designed, I mean, it's like the exhaust is dominantly steam and CO2. So with that extra water, you have extra steam. But the rocket mass heater is like, steam is our friend. We're designed to work with steam. So we're cool with that. Now, smoke from a conventional wood stove also is going to contain steam, but then the steam is going to, you know, interact with your creosote and shit. But, you know, the bottom line is like, I don't think you want to be running green or wet wood in any system. That's just a bad idea. But yeah, it's just as fucked up in a rocket mass heater as it is in a conventional system.
Okay. All right. Julia chimes in with when you were talking about the glass. She says the new stuff is more blue looking and less stable.
That's the soda glass.
I think he's looking for it.
All right, ready to get back to this video?
Yeah, we only got 4 more minutes, and we got about 6 more minutes of video. So we'll see how we do.
Okay, so what this does is, first of all, you can sit in front of it and watch the fire, which you can't do in a J2 rocket mass heater. It's got a glass front, right? With the larger models, you can literally put a log or two in it and walk away for an hour, right? Which you typically can't really do with a rocket J-tube rocket mass heater. Typically 15-20 minutes, you got to be back to it and fiddle with it if you give it a good tight load. And that's an 8-inch rocket mass heater, the larger ones. So this solves the throw the log at it issue, and it solves the gotta fiddle with it all the time issue, and it solves the can't see the fire unless you're right on top of it issue. What more can I say about that? It's very gentle heat. It's gentle heat. The kids, a little toddler can toddle right up to that and touch it and be just fine. And they'll end up sitting right there, all happy and warm. I mean, look at this chimney. I mean, the fire's running, and I'm holding the chimney. It's toasty.
If this were a standard wood stove, your skin would be melting right now.
Stuck to the stovepipe, and I'd be screaming,
right?
And like looking for a hospital trip. Yeah, trip to the hospital. The only part of the stove that gets unreasonably hot is this guy right here. That's it.
Don't look! Don't look! Our underwear is showing! We would never go out in public with it like this! Don't look! Don't look at that! It's so embarrassing! It's not really there!
So here at base camp, I am with Paul Wheaton and Uncle Mud, one of the innovators for the Rocket Mass Heater Jamboree. And Paul, you are widely known in the United States, at least for promoting hugelkultur. That's probably one of your biggest things you're known for. And Uncle Mud, being one of the innovators for rocket mass heaters, is here, and we have this incredible marriage that has occurred. Can you tell us about that?
It's the hybrid! So yeah, we've got the hugelkultur meets the rocket mass heater. And really what this is for greenhouses. So the thing is that if you're going to make something in a greenhouse, it has to be wet tolerant. And some people, I don't know, they either didn't get the memo or they don't believe it, I'm not sure. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep this thing running for several years. I mean, not constantly, but we'll fire it up periodically through several years to prove that it has tolerated the wet that's just out here in Mother Nature. At the same time, we're going to be able to extend the season on this growing bed, which we're going to pile even higher than what you see. And we're going to be able to grow things that normally can't be grown right here.
By keeping your little roots warm.
Warm roots.
Warm roots, yes. What are we going to see? We're very curious to find out what we're going to see. Aren't we?
We are. Are we going to extend the season? And how? And how long?
And how long?
What flavor of season extension will it be? Will it be better than a greenhouse?
All right, I'm going to stop it there. Go to Grass-Fed Homestead, their YouTube channel. You should subscribe to his channel. It's a great channel. And check out the Rocket Mass Heater Jamboree video to watch the rest. We are out of time, gentlemen. Any last minute things you would like to say?
The Jamboree, today is the last day of the Jamboree. There's a bunch of stuff still going on, so I got to get down there, see how things are going, and then we're going to wrap up here in a few hours. Peter is up at Allerton Abbey right now building stuff. Let's see, we just went down today. Mud built this other thing. I think he's calling it the butt-warming donut. And so that's inside the berm shed. Fascinating design, and our butts were warmed. It was like a nice 85 degrees, and he's thinking that he's still working on it. He's going to get it optimized so that it'll get to 85 degrees in like 5 or 10 minutes on a much colder day than what it is today. It'll be a great place to kind of go and hang out. And it'll still be a great place to hang out even on a hot day, I think, because it's inside the berm shed out of the sun. So that's created. I'm trying to remember what are all the things that have been built. Oh, and Mud made
Cottage.
Mud made 3 creations on this trip. There's the cottage rocket, which is just glimpsed in this video. It's a thing where it's like it'll heat. It takes a small space. And instead of heating a huge mass to like 120 degrees, he heats a small mass to like 400 degrees, and then it continues to give off heat for hours instead of days. So he's got that, and then you could take the mass off and set it aside, and you could put in an oven, or you could put in a cooktop, or you could put in all kinds of different things. The cottage rocket, that's going to be set up in our little wood shop. What else? Peter did that double shoebox style thing. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Trying to think of because you were here. What else was there?
We had Love Shack, the Red Cabin, the Hoogle, the Cottage Rocket, the bench warmer. Of course, you have your water heaters there that were already there.
What are the big creations this year?
That's all I can think of.
You're looking at that thing that Donkey made, and then he was going to make that in 2 days. Oh, the skiddable canning kitchen.
Oh, right. Which wasn't done when I was there.
Right. And there's big progress on that today. But that thing that Donkey was making, I mean, he had a certain design. He had 2 days to do the build during part 1 of the Jamboree. And then it just became this piece of art that he was falling in love with as he was making it. And so it took a lot longer. So there's that. Mud's thing went together really fast, that hugelkultur. And that hugelkultur needs to be built. We need to augment it. It needs to get much taller. And we're going to add a bunch to it so it holds more mass. And we need to mulch it and plant it and stuff like that.
So Julia's saying pictures. We need lots of pictures, and so head over to permies.com and just search through the Rocket Mass Heater Workshop Jamboree, and I think lots of pictures are posted there, as well as just searching Rocket Mass Heater. I also saw Casserole Door is another post there.
Yeah.
You can see that door. We have the Tiny House Rocket Mass Heater Cyclone Batch, which talks about it more than just the door.
Yeah, Donkey's calling that the Cyclone Batch Rocket Mass Heater.
Which is beautiful. I think it's beautiful, especially if you do the masonry job a little better. But I think that's a beautiful design. Absolutely right.
It's got a plaster layer coming, although I think it looks pretty nice just the way it is, too.
I like it the way it is if it had a little less plaster around it. Let's see here. Season extender for the Hoogle. That's another forum post. We got the Minnie Mouse that's in the Love Shack. That's it. So head over to Permies, and there's tons of pictures there of that stuff, and I'm sure more is coming.
We are also ramping up in a big way for people to come out here and rent our structures that are heated. So like For example, you could rent the Red Cabin, and with that beautiful thing that Funky built, or with Minnie Mouse that's in the Love Shack. So, and of course the teepee with the big rocket mass heater in it. And then there's another thing too, that the thing that's being built by Peter right now up in Allerton Abbey, the wall is going, the uphill wall is being rebuilt in Allerton Abbey. It's almost done. And then the thing that Peter is building is going to have a mass on it as well. So it'll have a little bench that you can sit on.
Cool.
So
all right.
I
I can't wait to see pictures. Yeah, the donut bench thing. I want to see more pictures of that. When I left, they were cutting all the steel. So instead of having piping in between each drum for this donut, they actually cut the drums to fit. It's really cool. So I'm excited to see pictures of that and see how it turned out. All right. Well, I hope everybody will join us next week. Thank you, Paul and Davin, for showing up and talking about this cool ass shit.
Thank you, guys. Y'all are very inspiring, and it's great to witness you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, by the way, if you're joining us live, stick around. We're going to talk. We spend another 5-10 minutes after every show, not recording, just chit-chatting with you guys. So that's kind of one of the benefits of being a Permaethos customer or a Paul Wheaton Patreon. So stick around. Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Bye-bye.